This program brought to you by Roundup CT Extra.
It's fully loaded.
This week on Cross Country, we meet the man who's heading up dramatic changes to our red meat industry. And King Cotton takes up the fight against synthetics.
For the people of this land, cross country.
Hello, I'm Neil Inall. Welcome after the week when most people in the wool industry, but not everyone, was stunned by the Federal Cabinet's decision to stop sales from the wool stockpile until next July. But all sheep people were pleased when all Australian governments supported the plan to eradicate OJD, ovine Johne's disease. Most of us don't usually think of prawn fishermen as conservationists. After all, their trawl nets also catch turtles, stingrays, sharks and other marine creatures, some of which die. But a group of fishers from the northern prawn fishery have signed up to help researchers to collect data that's very valuable in the conservation of sea turtles. They've been specially trained to identify, measure, resuscitate and tag any turtles that are inadvertently caught in their nets, as Karen Milliner reports.
Bring the flipper forward.
Cassandra Rose is about to tag her first turtle.
Give it a good squeeze.
Oh, it's not hurting.
Well, it's not. This has got more strength than I have and it's not struggling at all. So, yep, that's fine. Yep.
Guy Bradbury is trying his hand at tagging too.
Good one. Good closure. Okay, that's excellent.
Guy, Cassandra and the others in this group aren't scientists. They're skippers, deckhands and cooks who work the trawlers in the northern prawn fishery. Over the next 2 years, researchers will be relying on them to collect and record valuable information about the sea turtles they unwittingly catch in their trawl nets.
Fishermen are the people who spend a lot of time in the sea. And if you were to try and get this kind of information by putting people on vessels or putting scientists or doing research cruises, it would cost you an enormous amount of money.
These 20 commercial fishers were hand-picked from those who volunteered to take on the job of turtle monitor.
It's just a fascinating thing to be involved with, and I'm out in the boat just cooking, so it gives me another interest, and it doesn't take much longer time. Get the guys in the boats involved, they'll be into it, so it's good for everyone out there.
I don't consider myself environmentally friendly, but I'd like to sort of play my part being out there on the boat.
The fishers spent 3 days in Brisbane last month preparing for their new job, getting a crash course in turtle history and biology.
So we've looked at this turtle, we've established that it's a female, we've established that it's an adult, and we've established for 3 consecutive years that it has not bred.
They also learned how to identify, tag and measure.
Onto there, down the midline, and where the 2 scales join at the back.
This research project is a joint initiative of the Bureau of Resource Sciences, the CSIRO and the Australian Fisheries Management Authority, with funding from the Fisheries Research and Development Corporation. It's similar to one successfully run with a smaller group of volunteers 9 years ago. Data from the last monitoring survey suggested that between 5,000 and 6,000 sea turtles are captured each year in trawl nets in the northern prawn fishery. Of those, 14% drown in the nets and a further 25% are either injured or comatose when hauled on board. Since that data was collected, there have been changes in the fishery, and researchers are keen to see what impact these have had on turtle mortality rates. Trawler logbook entries indicate lower turtle catches and a higher rate of survival after capture.
The amount of fishing, or the fishing effort in the fishery, has reduced, the number of vessels have reduced, and also there's been a change in the attitude, I think, of many fishermen, so that there's a lot more fishermen now that are interested in resuscitating the turtles.
Another big change is about to happen in the fishery. In 2 years, trawlers will have to incorporate TEDs, turtle excluder devices, into their nets. Information collected in the lead-up to the TED's introduction will help scientists determine just how effective they are in reducing the bycatch. Skipper Guy Bradbury has already had experience with the TED. He trialled one for 16 nights last year for the Department of Primary Industry.
Worked well, we didn't lose any prawns out of it, we caught no turtles.
His involvement in the trial prompted him to sign up as a turtle monitor.
You sort of start thinking about them a little bit more than just, oh, there's a turtle on the tray, what a nuisance, chuck it over the side.
We'll look forward to collecting their information in the months to come, and in a year's time we should have some interesting new information that comes out of the fishery.
After a month or so's break, prawning is about to start again in North Queensland in a week or so. That's when those new researchers we've just seen will start to record their first findings, which should be available by this time next year. Next on Cross Country, the daunting task that's been set for the new head of our red meat industry.
Cross Country.
This is Cross Country. It's good to have your company. The long-awaited appointment of the man who will occupy the red meat industry's hot seat was made way back in March. Since then, though, Richard Brooks has worked behind the scenes with the Meat and Livestock Australia Board and the staff to ensure a smooth start for this new producer-owned company. This week, Cross Country spoke with Richard Brooks about the new structure for red meat marketing.
It's been hailed as a new era for Australia's red meat industry. The formation of Meat and Livestock Australia is part of an overall restructure which has seen the emergence of 3 new companies: MLA, the Australian Meat Processors Corporation and LiveCorp. The Meat Industry Council, the Australian Meat and Livestock Corporation and the Meat Research Corporation have been abolished.
The MLA is a service providing company for marketing, for promotion and for R&D for the producers. We'll be working very closely with the processing sector, of course, but if you're a producer and a transaction levy payer, we are your company, and that I think is a fundamental shift in ownership of the organisation.
The company has taken over a range of marketing and R&D activities, formerly the responsibility of the AMLC and the MRC.
There's 4 or 5 key areas that we've got to address. There's consumer confidence and maintaining the market in Australia. We have the underwriting the food safety standards across the whole industry. That's a key area. We have the market access overseas and developing and maintaining our critical export areas. We have a lot of strategic planning and development to do yet. So those 4 areas plus the working with the processors is where what we're all about over the next 12 months. I think we have to demonstrate accountability, and accountability means performing and reporting back. So this whole concept of two-way communication between ourselves and our owners, if you like, is critical.
Meat and Livestock Australia's financial resources are substantially leaner than the overall budgets of the former AMLC and the MRC, income falling from $120 million to just under $84 million. In the overall funding cake, processors and live exporters are no longer required to contribute compulsory levy funds. They will, however, contribute funds for agreed joint projects that the MLA will undertake on the industry's behalf.
The real challenge is to make sure that we get more value out of the funds that we do have, and we need to be measured by our results on that.
More than $35 million is sourced from cattle transaction levies. $20.5 million comes from dollar-for-dollar government co-funding for research and development, making R&D a much larger component. The remainder is from levies on mutton, goat and lamb. Processors and exporters contribute about $12.5 million. Expenditure is broken up into almost 50-50 marketing and research. By species, that's close to 55% on beef and live cattle, 22% on sheep and goat meat and live sheep, close to 22% will go towards contract processors, with a slim 1% allocation for other contractors.
We actually will be working through with not only the peak councils and the commodity groups, but directly with our members through existing networks and forums to make sure that they have a feeling, or a genuine feeling of helping create our strategies and getting their views heard. So that's the first important point. The other thing is that we don't want to leave it to annual general meetings where we present programs and plans. We'll certainly be doing that, but we want to have this continuing engagement in the development of those plans, and there are big differences, I think, to the way things have operated in the past.
An important first step to having that say is becoming a registered member of MLA. Because it's not a successor in business to AMLC or MRC, the new company must build a membership database from scratch.
We need to get people involved from day one, so we're already out there at the moment inviting people to register as for membership. Sign up and express your interest, because it's easier to participate from inside the organisation and to help mould things than being outside it and sort of observing.
MLA is currently conducting a mail-out to previously registered shareholders of the AMLC and MRC, inviting them to join the new company. Levy payers are encouraged to become involved, take up membership and participate in the operations of MLA. While the company is not yet fully staffed, Richard Brooks is confident it has the right mix to deliver real results.
Well, it's really not a matter of the staff numbers, it's, even though they're down, but it's more of the expertise. And the expertise that we've got now in MLA, I'm very comfortable that we can deliver the programs and meet our customer expectations. We're running at about 86 positions filled out of a possible complement of about 117, but again, we're not rushing to fill them. We want to make sure that we've got the structures right and the right people.
As for his own expertise, Mr Brooks was previously the Managing Director of Adelaide-based food and beverage group Berryvale Orchards. Before that, he headed up Coca-Cola Amatil's Southeast Asian operations. His former association with the meat and livestock industry is purely as a consumer.
My role in this is very much to help put the business systems together. As you know, as we said, we've got the expertise in the meat and livestock industry on hand. Mine is more to help set the priorities and the business goals.
Richard Brooks, the Managing Director of the MLA. The reporter, Mary Grills. And don't forget to look out in the mail for your invitation to join that new organisation. An easy way to register your details with Meat and Livestock Australia is this 1-800 phone number. It's 1-800 068 685. When Cross Country returns, cotton and its future battle with an old enemy of Australia, synthetics.
Cross Country.
This is Cross Country, which is seen across Australia, Southeast Asia and the Southern Pacific every weekend. Well, it's a long time since the major water storages on both sides of the New South Wales and Queensland border have been as healthy as they are at the moment. There's plenty of subsoil moisture too in those summer cropping areas, far too much in some districts. So what are the prospects for a boomer season in cotton, and what will prices be like? David Farley is Managing Director of the Collie Cotton Group, which trades 23% of the Australian crop. During the week, I asked him if we'll see record sowings this spring.
This spring, without doubt, I think that is a reality. With the gross margin of cotton compared to other summer crops, sorghum and sunflower in particular, the opportunity of the abundance of moisture we've got, both in the dryland opportunities and the irrigated areas, we're expecting to see a substantial increase, and more importantly, a record production coming from it, exceeding the 3 million bale target.
Are there any particular areas where we could see a big increase?
I think we'll see it in the traditional areas and in some of what we've traditionally known as the marginal areas, go down into the Lachlan, east of Moree, east of Narrabri, going up into the Darling Downs and a little bit further to the west.
Tell me, if the climatologists are right and we get a wet spring, what will that do to your estimates?
Well, if we do get the forecast wet spring, it could inhibit the irrigated farmer in his planting, and if the current areas that have been lost to the opportunity to plant wheat or lost wheat crops themselves, I think it'll keep summer production out of those areas altogether.
Tell me, what's driving your estimate of cotton plantings?
Principally the opportunity of gross margin. Without doubt, cotton, whether it be dryland cotton or irrigated cotton, has the best gross margin, something like a factor of 3 over the dryland areas and a factor of 7 over the irrigated areas. Fundamental to that is world supply and demand. We're seeing the world production of cotton down 5%, and more importantly, within the United States, it's down something like 25%. So ending stocks in the principal countries that count, and those countries are the price makers of cotton on a global basis, are becoming very, very tight.
How good is the global demand for cotton, or is it like wool on a downslide?
An interesting scenario. With polyester, our main competitor, at 28 cents a pound today at the mill, and cotton still selling between 70 and 80 cents depending on the quality, we're seeing a loss of our share of the growth in the world fibre market, especially in apparels. But if we could meet that demand that was there, we'd have a trouble with production. If the price got any higher, we'd lose more to it. But cotton does have a job in front of itself into the future to get itself back recognised so it at least can sustain its growth curve with polyester.
How can you do that?
It's a big challenge. I think the most important challenge we've got, though, is can we collectively put it together as modern world countries? But fundamental to underneath that, cost of production. And if we can keep our cost of production low, like we do in Australia at around 36 cents a pound, as opposed to the Americans around 70 cents a pound, we can maintain a viable industry and build our share at the price of inefficient and subsidised agriculture.
You keep emphasising good gross margins. What are the prices likely to be come April or May next year at harvest time?
Farmers can comfortably forward sell at around $5.40 to $5.50 a bale currently. As we come into the US harvest, I think we'll see a tightening of supply and those prices will keep moving. We've got a very attractive Australian dollar and farmers can comfortably forward sell spot cotton, next season's cotton and the following season's cotton to become price makers and margin makers instead of just price takers like the rest of agricultural Australia seems to be focused on.
Now, you've been mixed up for some time with the cotton industry in Western Australia. How's it look?
It's very promising. We've got new technology and new farming practices. The new technology is the BT cotton, the InGuard cotton, which after 4 years of testing now has performed very well. We're farming counter-seasonal, farming in the winter months, not the summer months. As we plant in the east, we'll be harvesting in the west. We've got some huge challenges in front of us though with land and land title. And then more importantly, with the National Register Authority being aware that we've got to demonstrate to the authority and the industry that we've got a management practice that can sustain itself into the future. But I think there is a big opportunity both in the Territory and West Australia.
All in all then, Australia could grow a lot more cotton in the future.
Comfortably, and it comes down to an issue of resource management. I believe we've got some of the best farmers in the world. We've got a proven and demonstrated marketing system and a reputation globally. Now we're really focusing on how well can we manage our resources into the future.
David Farley. Actually, David is one of the many speakers at next week's big cotton conference on the Gold Coast, a most important gathering of growers, scientists, consultants and marketers. Now, last week we gave you Telstra's special website address where you can find out all you need to know about avoiding cable damage. You can even order cable location plans online. That address, I'm afraid, was wrong. We gave you too many dots. The right address is www.dialb4udig.telstra.com.au. For more information, though, on any of today's stories, just poll fax 190 224 117 or write to us at Cross Country, Level 1, 7 West Street, North Sydney, 2060. Coming up next, the weather.
Cross Country.
The weather is brought to you by QBE Insurance, Australia's leading rural insurer.
And what a week it was for rain. It brought more devastating floods to both southern China and Korea, then widespread falls across the US Corn Belt, which pushed grain futures prices down even further. In Australia, more heavy rains in places where it's not normally meant to rain much at this time of the year, and with predictions of more to come. This is the district average rainfall map for the 7 days until Wednesday. And look at those incredible falls of 50 millimetres plus in the Gascoyne and Murchison pastoral region of Western Australia, with similar amounts on the central western plains of New South Wales, somewhat less in the middle of Queensland. And dare I say it, we should have a lot to burn in the summertime. And the 30-day moving average of the Southern Oscillation Index was plus 14.1 on Wednesday, which has produced general agreement that the season will stay moist over huge areas of the country. The Bureau of Meteorology released its latest seasonal outlook this week, and it shows a probability of 44% or higher of getting above average rains over the shaded area between now and the end of October. That could put the combined August, September and October rainfall figures amongst the wettest third on record. Already some farmers are saying enough, no more. Now, Queensland's Centre for Climate Applications is a bit more specific in its analysis of probabilities. With the details, here's Sid Plant.
If you have a look at the seasonal outlook for the period August to October, you can see that the probabilities of receiving median or normal rainfall for Australia are from 60 to 90%. You need to remember that the median for different places could vary considerably, and the Rainman program could help clarify the situation for your place. The odds are pretty good for some of those areas in central Queensland that are still drought-stricken, but they're also high for more rain in some of the cropping areas such as northern New South Wales, already wringing wet and wilting. In this situation, the odds are that the last frost will be earlier, so let's hope that we get some warm weather soon to reduce the waterlogging. For the world, the probabilities in some countries of interest are significantly lower, from 20 to 40% in southern USA, Argentina, northern China and Central Asia. This could be of significance from a marketing point of view for things like beef, grain and cotton.
There'll be another cross country in 7 days, and we'll look forward to seeing you then. Goodbye.
Coming up in just a moment on Channel 8, AFL Live doubleheader. First up, live from the SCG, the Sydney Swans take on West Coast. Then at 2:50, Showdown 4 with the reigning premiers, the Adelaide Crows, taking on Port.
Next on Cross Country, it's National Bones Week, when the dairy industry and doctors cooperate to combat bone disease and sell more dairy products.
This program brought to you by Roundup CT Extra.
It's fully loaded.